Hello you guys, this is Sharzat Morgan, and today on this video we're going to talk about the differences between boys and girls and how we have to honor boys. I'm going to be playing a couple short clips from the YouTube channel Dad Saves America. His guest on the show is Christina Hoff Sommers. She is an author of a book called The War Against Boys. And this video is called Schools Are Hostile to Boys' Instincts, which I absolutely agree on. The schools have been run by women who hate boys and everything about boys, by DEI. They have taken away recess and they have tried to say that everything about a boy is toxic. This is so bad. If my kids went to school like that these days, I would be homeschooling or sending them to like a private school. This is very concerning, I find. Before I go into what I want to talk about, in the beginning of the video, they talk about how boys and girls play differently, that girls want to like whisper secrets and make friends and do cooperative play. And boys want to play with sticks and they want to challenge each other and they want to roughhouse and tumble. And so many schools have taken away recess. And school is really designed for girls. Girls do really well sitting in a chair or listening to the teacher. And boys don't. They're not designed for that. I really do think a lot of this ADHD stuff is because they're trying to make boys seem bad for being boys. You know, I just have a heart for little boys, you know. I think it's because I have a little brother. So this classroom bias towards sitting and writing and all that, and is pushing boys out from the classroom. And so I do think that is one of the reasons that fewer men want to go to college, because they grow up in this very hostile educational system with few male teachers, and men don't want to be in that, what they have done to education today. It's not conducive to how boys want to live and what they want to study and how they want to be. And they need to move more. They need to have more recess. They need to have rough and tumble. They need to be able to have these books. I think one of the best books for little boys always was, you know, like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, these like adventurous little boys that went out and did, you know, what they wanted, unsupervised by their parents. I think those are like banned from schools now. So you might want to check out the whole video. I'm going to link it in the description. But what I wanted to talk about today was the emotional factors. So the gender differences show up in recess and social media. Recess, where boys need more time to just rough and tumble play. And on social media, where women have such a huge disadvantage because they're so psyched out by the social media. That this has to do with women having more feelings, but I think a lot of what society is doing is kind of over-encouraging little girls and their feelings and trying to make boys have all these feelings, whereas boys naturally do not want to be in their feelings and talk about their feelings. Like, that is not in their nature. So I'm going to play two short clips. I think it's 3 minutes in length, where Christina Hoff Sommers and the YouTuber Dad Saves America are going to be talking about this focus on feelings and rumination. And then I'll be back on the other side.
One of the reasons teachers might give that they want boys to write about their feelings and they want schools to be more feeling-centered is that they think this is necessary to combat the dangers of, you know, some unhinged masculinity or something. But there was a very interesting study by, I think it was Amanda Rose at the time. She was at University of Pennsylvania, and she interviewed a huge group of adolescent boys and girls and asked them how they felt after if they had a terrible problem, how did they feel after they talked about it? Did talking about it, talking it through, make them feel better? And she asked this, 14, 15-year-old kids. And the girls said absolutely they felt better. They were so glad they could talk about it with their mom or their best friend. And the boys, with a huge disparity, the boys said, first of all, they thought it was weird. And that was the main word that kept coming up, and a waste of time. And it didn't make them feel better. And we have a lot of evidence that this is a difference. So most people rush in and say, well, that's not good for the boys. But actually what they found was that the boys were a little more stoical and could sort of compartmentalize and move on. And the girls were ruminators. When they had a problem, they wanted to talk about it, and they thought about it, and they ruminated it. And these psychologists concluded that maybe girls would be better off if we encouraged a little more stoicism. Rather than spending all our efforts to get the boys to be ruminators and constantly talking about how I felt and what it meant, and which most of them don't want to do. And any mother of a boy will, or father might know about this. But what if it turns out that that's adaptive, and that what the boys are doing is maybe helpful to them? And maybe we've, in this highly therapeutic society where we're so focused on people's emotional states and things, maybe girls have a tendency for that. Maybe we've exaggerated it, and now they have to cope with all of the highs and lows that can be brought on by social media, and what people are saying about you, what's going on, all that. It may be just impossible.
Focus on therapy and on talking about and ruminating on problems, partly because it seems to me like when you conjure up the feeling of something that was painful, you essentially re-injure yourself to some extent. To some extent, you relive the experience. And it seems like there's a feedback loop there that is not fundamentally healing, but is actually sort of a multi-layered traumatizing that goes on.
Everything is classified as traumatic that used to be just, well, first of all, if you think back to how children grew up in the previous generations, life was a lot harder. And I don't wish a hard life on my child. And I'm guilty of being a helicopter parent as much as anyone else. It's just, it's impossible not to. But on the other hand, I recognize that my parents were more aloof. They were too busy with life to, and challenges, and 3 kids, and they were very young. And they, basically, they just didn't pay that much attention to us until, you had to be home at 9 in the summer before dark. And I don't ever remember them calling up a teacher or anything. I didn't want them to have anything to do with my school. And now parents are so involved, and the child, I'm worried that they're really not learning basic skills of just how to deal with the challenge of life. If you talk to psychologists now, and they've had to increase their numbers at colleges, practically all the kids have a diagnosis, and they're coming for they can't solve the problem. If they don't like their roommate or something, they don't seem to have the skills to deal with adversity. And
so I think this makes really good sense, that a lot of times we give women a pass for having feelings, but I do think we need to hold women accountable for how they express their feelings. You can't just vomit your feelings on other people and violate their boundaries. And that feelings are things that we feel in the moment. You're not supposed to keep ruminating and talking about it over and over and over. Like, I have to look up his name. Okay, John Popola. Okay, from Dad Saves America. He talks about how when you're talking, you're really reliving the experience. So all those emotions are going to come up in you again, and it's kind of a form of rumination. I do know if those of you have watched the fairy, just a moment. The Crappy Childhood Fairy. She talks about how for years she went to therapy and she wasn't getting any better, and she actually felt worse after every therapy session because it was just all talk therapy, and she was reliving everything she was talking about. And I agree with that. I think that all this talking out, even though some women say they like it, and there is room for that, for talking things out, sometimes it's just kind of reliving things and ruminating and making things worse. And there, as they were talking about on the clip, there's such an overemphasis on therapy now and giving everybody a diagnosis. They did mention in the video, I think it was in the clip, Abigail Schreier. I heard her on Joe Rogan, which is why I got this book, Bad Therapy, Why the Kids Aren't Growing Up. And it's about the fact that people are just doing therapy for every little thing. And so Gen Z's mental health is worse. And this helicopter parents are watching them over everything, really ruminating on their feelings, that these children get to college and they have a problem with a roommate and they don't know how to solve it, so they have to go to see the college counselor. Like, this is not good, having kids be so overly in their feelings, unable to cope with life. And they say in this book, talk therapy can induce rumination, trapping children in cycles of anxiety and depression. That gentle parenting can encourage emotional turbulence in children as they lash out, desperate for an adult in charge. So I guess what is interesting is, though, that women are more emotional creatures than men. I think that our power comes from using our emotions in cooperative ways and really being in the moment. We have to be in the moment with our emotions, because comparing ourselves, ruminating, can cause a lot of mental health issues, especially for young women when they're on like Instagram, comparing themselves to other women. That is so unhealthy. And I think that it kind of can exacerbate our natural state that we already have of more feelings. And that maybe it's good for women to just learn to be, in my opinion, to be present in the moment with their feelings, to not put themselves in the situations where negative feelings can arise, like social media. And there's one place where I am on social media where I just stopped following everybody who gloats and brags, because it was just making me compare myself. I didn't like how it felt, so I just eliminated that from my life. I don't have Instagram, I don't have Facebook. So that we have to be in charge of our emotions also, and that we have to stop asking men to share their feelings all the time because they don't want to. You know, if we want to be in our feelings a lot, I think we should be just having our feelings or talking with other women. But again, I really don't think there's any value in that. So I'm going to stop asking men how they feel, because they're just really in the moment. So there's no need to do all that talking. So that's what I wanted to say. But still, I do think that women are more emotional creatures, and that does show up in us being more different, sexually. But there are a lot of differences between boys and girls anyway. The point was, little girls automatically on the playground play these cooperative games and whisper secrets, but that the teachers, in trying to get men to have more feelings, what they've actually done and what this talk therapy model has done is really overly encouraged this whole feeling thing. How do our kids feel? How do these girls feel? And that makes girls ruminate in their feelings. And it has made parents into these helicopter parents who are raising children, Gen Z, many of them, who are totally incapable of handling their own lives. Maybe they can't even get a job. Every child in high school, I believe, should be able to apply for a job, be able to handle their own money, open a bank account, handle a conflict with a teacher, handle a conflict with a friend. And in Europe, they just ride the bus by themselves too. I think we're just too focused on our kids' feelings, and to their detriment and to the detriment of boys. So that's just what I wanted to say in this video. I hope you like this video, and I'll see you again soon.